Hey, welcome fellas to the next video on the series of learning HTML and CSS. In this series, we will learn about forms in HTML. So HTML forms allows us to take user interactivity in HTML to the next level. All major websites do at least use HTML forms in one form or the other. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. So to write HTML forms, we use the form tag. Now every form has different types of elements. First are input fields. As the name suggests, the input fields in HTML allows users to type in stuff into the website. Before studying about the input HTML elements, let us look at various elements we see on a common form. A text field that allows the user to type in text which is displayed directly on the page. Next is a password field required to put in passwords which are not displayed on the screen. Next comes the checkbox that allows users to select multiple options. Radio buttons allows the users to select one of the available options. Then the number field which allows only numeric input and exponentia. Then comes the buttons. As the name suggests, buttons are used to react to click events on a page. There are more form elements. However, in this video, I will only talk about the ones mentioned above. HTML input elements are added using the input tag, which have the following general syntax. The type attribute controls the type of the input element displayed. The common type values are listed below as here in the table. Let us start by adding a text field. So I open Visual Studio Code and get ready to code. In our HTML file, we specify a special form tag within which we use the input tag. Inside the input tag, we set the type attribute to text and save it. The type is the mandatory attribute here, but it is not the only attribute available. We can specify a placeholder text that specifies the purpose of this input field. Notice how the placeholder text disappears when we click on the field. We can also add a value attribute to attach a default value to the field. See, it gets displayed by default when the document is loaded. Next, we use the size attribute to control the size of the input field and a max length attribute wherein we specify the maximum length of the text the field could accept. Similarly, min length can also be used to set the minimum length. Two Boolean attributes called read only, which prevents value change, and spell check, which enables spell checking on the input HTML field, can also be specified. Now let's add a password field. For the password field, in addition to the type attribute, we often use a pattern attribute which takes in a regular expression to validate your password under a set of specified conditions. If you don't know what regular expressions are, I have given a link in the description of the video. Check that out as well. Let's add a password field and type onto it. Notice how instead of displaying text, dots are displayed which do good work to conceal your password. Okay, now let's add a checkbox and we add some text next to it. Notice as I click, I can select multiple items using checkboxes. Let's use the other attributes that are shipped along with checkboxes. First is a Boolean attribute checked, which is present to mark the checkbox checked by default. Next is the value attribute, which is used to provide value to the checkbox, which is sent to the server when the form is submitted. Next is the radio button. So a radio button necessarily takes in a name attribute for it to be working fine. As radio buttons allows us to select only one option out of the available options, the available options should all have the name attribute with the same value attached. Let me just demonstrate it. So I create some radio buttons along with some label, but I don't add in the name attribute. As you can see, we select both male and female for the gender. To fix this, we add the same name, say gender, for both of the radio buttons here and see if we can choose only one of them now. Again, if we make a small change in the name, we see again that we are able to select both of them since they don't have the same name value attribute. Next is the input type of number, which can be used to type in numeric data on our web page form. Also, it has the additional attributes max, min, and step. Max and min are used to specify the range of input it could take, and the step attribute is used to specify the stepping interval. Let me quickly demonstrate it. So we set min to 2 and max to 10 and step to 2. So as we can see, the number field provides us two arrows on the right side, and I can click on these arrows to increase the value of the number field. The increase in the number field is actually governed by the stepping interval, which is specified using the step attribute. Next is the input type button, which is used to create simple push buttons which can be programmed to execute custom code on being clicked. Since we have not touched on programming yet, we leave that for another day. The button also has the value attribute which can be used to provide in the value for the button. One attribute which can also be added to some of the input fields is the required attribute, which, as the name suggests, simply means that it is mandatory to set the value for that particular field. Now, HTML also offers the button tag to create our own push buttons instead of specifying an input type button markup. There are some subtle differences between these two approaches of creating a button. Now I give it to you as an assignment. Do your research, find about the differences between specifying a button using the input tag and using the button tag instead, and provide me with the answer in the comment section below. There is surely more to this than what we have yet covered. I didn't want to keep this video long, so we save the discussion for the next video. If you are enjoying this series, do consider subscribing to iTalk Code in order to stay notified whenever such awesome videos like this are uploaded. Till then, happy coding.